this is now, I believe, maybe our close to our 20th community call, and we've done these every month for a little bit over the last year or so, and we do them every month to help those you guys who are in the community get a chance to dial in some of your skills and also connect with not only some great experts like Sam and Patty, but also with the to keep you in tune with the rest of the One Life community. We're going to be visiting quite a few cities throughout the country, but it's always great to have an opportunity to kind of check in. And so if there's any hot news or good news or anything that's going well in your world, I'd love for you to share that in the chat. What I do want to get into before we dive into the topic today is those of you guys who are familiar with One Life and have been around for a little while, like Sam and Patty, kind of get the vibe and know what One Life is really about. But those of you guys who are newer to our community, I think it's important to know why these calls are relevant or why we do these calls. But we have something called the fulfillment triangle, and that's probably one of the biggest things that being in the One Life community, hopefully you can take away from being in the community, is this ability to find something that you love, to find something that you're good at, and then to find a way where you can make money or turn that into a business, or allow yourself to have a business that funds this fulfillment. And the way that we find that you do that is through mastering the core four. And today we're going to focus on relationships. And it's the we say relationships because it's relationship with yourself, it's relationship with family, significant others, mentors, coworkers, children, things like that. And today we're going to really dial in on the marriage side of it, and then the relationship side of it, and maybe even the intimacy side of it. And so our guests of honor tonight, I kind of talked about them a little bit earlier, those of you guys who are on, are Sam and Patrick Cullinane. And they are, like I said, no stranger to the One Life community. They've actually been presenters at multiple conferences. They're board members. They've been supporters and donors, and just really someone who is very much part of the ethos of the One Life community. And personally, they've been married for running on almost 25 years now, just over 24 years. And they'll probably share a little bit about their story today, but it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. They had lots of challenges. Had some children along the way, had some bumps, and had some hiccups, but they found a way to be able to get through those and get over those, and are now helping couples to create lasting love. And they are releasing a new book in a couple of weeks now, actually, about just over about 2 weeks or so, called Marriage: From Miserable to Magnificent. And it is an update to their first book called Bigger Love. And so I'm excited to get into it, because Sam just this past month, her TEDx talk was released. She gave a couple of TEDx talks over the last several months. And so this is such an honor and so fitting, and great timing, and all of those things. So thanks again, Sam and Patty, for hopping on today. We appreciate the time.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So I'm going to turn it over to you right now. But what I'd love for you guys to do is give some context to your story, and to kind of why you guys why you guys feel so passionate about doing this. And this is not something that is necessarily the convenient thing for you guys as a couple to do. So I'd love for you to share, what's made you so passionate about it. And then also, as you guys get into it, obviously you guys have some stuff that's in the book that you guys can get into, and we'll have some questions at the end. And I do want to let everybody know who's on the call. I'm going to put it in the chat. Sam has been working really hard, doing lots of research, but one thing that she made is a cool little quiz that you guys can take. So if you guys haven't taken the quiz, it's an awesome opportunity just to kind of diagnose where you're at in your relationship, so you can kind of get a starting point and have some context around some of the different stages that they're going to talk about today. So if you guys have questions, throw those in the chat. I'll try and chime in with any questions that come up. Otherwise, we'll have some time at the end. And without further ado, Sam and Patty, why don't you guys take over?
All right.
We'll do it. One of the in our book, one of the very first things that we talk about in all relationships actually is the relationship with yourself. So Sam has a little exercise she wants to do.
Should we introduce ourselves first and tell our story?
No.
Okay.
That's not interesting.
It isn't.
By the way, see our expensive backdrop? We put that together just for the One Life community.
Yeah, that's the cover of our upcoming book. We don't have a copy of it yet because it's just barely finished, like going to the printer today. So we don't have the real thing, but we have that little piece of paper. So you don't want to just talk about? Let's tell our story a little bit, and then I'll do my meditation.
Fine. God.
All right.
Let's just tell them we're a happy couple and move on.
We'll tell them about I'll tell them. If you can't tell, we joke around a lot. As Hector said, we have been married for almost 24 years, but in the 10th year of our marriage, we signed divorce papers, and I actually left the country. And in the year, we were apart for an entire year, and we ended up getting back together. And we've learned a lot of things since then. But we decided to write this book because a lot of people ask us for advice about relationships, because it's kind of unusual that you would break up to the point of signing papers for divorce and then end up getting back together.
I do recommend it though, because in the time we were apart, we learned a lot of really cool stuff about ourselves, and I didn't have to buy her a 10-year anniversary gift, which is a big one.
Okay. I didn't have to buy you one either.
Oh.
I don't recommend that you do that at all. I think that you can do things so that your relationship doesn't deteriorate.
Yeah, I was joking. That's the whole point of our book, and the reason that we did what we did is that we've learned a lot in the last 10 to 14 years, and had we known half of it in the first 10, we never would have ended up where we did. So
yeah, exactly. All right, so hopefully that's enough of a little introduction of who we are and why we're so passionate about relationships. I think the other reason we're passionate about it is because we do have a really great relationship, and we think everybody else can do it also if they put the work in the right places and set realistic expectations. And we're going to talk through some of that stuff on this call. But let's have everybody close their eyes. We're going to just do a quick meditation.
I don't have to, do I?
Yeah, you do too. Okay, close your eyes. Get kind of comfortable in your chair. Let's take 5 deep breaths. So let's breathe in through our nose and out through our mouths. And in through your nose and out through your mouth. In through your nose, out through your mouth. In through your nose, out through your mouth. One more. In through your nose.
That's 6.
Out through your mouth. And in your mind, I want you to get a picture of someone that you love very, very deeply. It could be a parent, it could be a child, a baby, it could be your lover. It doesn't matter who it is. Get a picture of that person in your mind, and I want you to feel that love. Where do you feel that love in your body? And just let yourself feel it. Let yourself feel that loving feeling. And now I want you to take that loving feeling that you're showing for that person in your mind, and I want you to turn it towards yourself. And I want you to say in your own mind, I love me. And let's do that with a deep breath. So breathe in and think, I love me. And breathe out and let go of anything that isn't that feeling. And one more time. Breathe in. Think, I love me. Turning that loving feeling towards yourself. And breathe out and let go of anything that isn't that loving feeling. Okay, you can open your eyes.
And we took 8 breaths. You said 5.
We took 5.
There's more than that. There's 2 at the end and then 6 in the middle. So it's a lot of breaths.
You're okay. It's good for you. It's good for your body to be over oxygenated.
Okay.
Part of what we teach, and it's chapter 1 of our book. I mean, if we ask you the question, who's the love of your life? A lot of people start naming their lover or other people, and we think that you are the love of your life. You should be the love of your life. You're the only person that is going to be with you from cradle to grave. And you have to learn how to love yourself. And that is not an easy task. I think it's like, we like to talk about it like enlightenment, you know. Very few of us ever reach enlightenment during our lives. I think self-love is kind of on that same scale where, you know, we're all going to be on that journey for our lives, but there are things that you can do to at least take care of yourself and foster that self-love, so that when you're full of that love, then you're able to give it better.
It's true. But I'll give you a converse example of that. If you're walking around and thinking to yourself, you know, because the opposite of loving yourself is beating yourself up, which most people tend to do quite often, and it's natural. It's just kind of how, I guess, the conditioning works, really. I mean, it's
well, you want to hear the science behind that?
In a minute, honey, I'm talking.
Well, it's called negativity bias, and they think that it was made in us for survival. We are always looking for the bad things so that we could survive. It more pertained to, like, you know, being in the wilderness and stuff and being eaten by tigers, but it still now applies to us trying to improve ourselves constantly. So anyway.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
Anyway,
good job, baby.
What I've noticed in myself, if procrastination is something I've battled with most of my life, and I can realize at 4:00 in the afternoon that I didn't do crap that I had set aside to do today, and now I'm walking around beating myself up. Oh, you dumbass, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, and now you got to do that tomorrow, and I'm feeling more stressed, so all these are like anti-loving thoughts and feelings that I'm having towards myself. And if Sam or one of the kids or somebody were to say, oh, I thought you were going to do this today, I'm like, what are you doing? And I'm snapping at them. I've done this in the past, I don't do it anymore. Anyway, I catch myself feeling defensive and wanting to snap at somebody, because it's like, who are you to tell me something that I've been telling myself all day? So that's why it's so important to try to get that soundtrack between your ears in a much more positive loop.
And you know what? Just taking a few deep breaths and picturing, feeling that love and saying that you love yourself, that takes me almost immediately to like a really calm, happy place. And if you can't just say I love myself and feel that love, picturing somebody that you love and turning it towards yourself, it's something that I started just recently, and I think it's working really, really well.
Or if you catch yourself beating yourself up or saying negative things to yourself, and there is nobody more harsh on you than yourself.
I saw something great that said, it was on Facebook. Well, hang on, it's just pertaining to this, that I never thought I was a bully until I listened to how I speak to myself.
Yeah. So, but if you can picture yourself, you got pictures of yourself as a cute little kid. We all have cute little kids. Imagine yourself talking to that little kid like that. It would never happen, and it should kind of hopefully scare you straight.
Well, it makes you
or make you feel sad.
It's really kind of a sadness thing.
All right. So that's the big one, the self part, because as Sam said a few minutes ago, when you're full up of self-love, then you have that much more to give everybody else.
Well, I think I saw somebody's asking the question, like, what are some habits? So yeah, it's a good habit to work on self-love. The first, I can see you said I'm constantly knocking myself down. Again, that's that negativity bias. We all do it. It's just part of being human. Part of how you deal with that is being aware. I mean, it's great that you already know that you're doing that. That means you have the awareness to be able to listen to that negative voice. And once you can hear it, then you can just say, do I want to, like, look, you can look at those negative thoughts and say, is believing that or telling myself this going to help me, or is it going to not help me? And almost none of my negative thoughts help me. So I hear the negative thoughts and I think, oh, Sam, silly, that's a silly thought you had. Because you don't have to believe your thoughts. That's another thing I think I've learned is I thought all my thoughts and emotions were real and I needed to do something with them. And now I've realized they're not. They're just thoughts. They're emotions. They come and they go. And as you can learn to let them come and go instead of holding on to all of them, that's a really powerful way to start. I mean, again, helping you change that soundtrack between your ears, like Patty said.
It's also another really good trick along those lines is for me that what works for me is I'm constantly trying to focus on the future and be present in the now. And if I'm beating myself up, it's something that happened in the past. It's something that I didn't do. It's something that I can't usually change. So what do I do right now to move me to where I want to be?
Yeah, that mindfulness, that being in the present moment. I think other things, other habits to build for self-love is taking care of yourself. You know, making sure that you're eating well, that you're sleeping well, that you're exercising, you're moving your body. You know, I think if you haven't heard of The Miracle Morning, you need to go read that book. That's a beautiful way to start on self-love. Hal's book is awesome, and that's a big way that I show my self-love as I meditate, but also doing things that light you up. You know, that's another. You wouldn't ever deny. Like if I look at Patty and say, you know, Patty, you can never golf again because I don't like that, you know, or I don't let you do what you want to do. You'd never do that with your partner or people that you love. So why do you deny yourself for doing the things that you love too? I mean, like, you know, a lot of people do that. I think doing things that light you up is also another way of showing yourself love.
Or feeling guilty. I hate the word guilty pleasures. You know, if it's a pleasure, I'm gonna
guilty.
I'm gonna beat up the present thing. Enjoy be present in the moment and enjoy it. It's a pleasure. You shouldn't have to feel guilty about it. If it's what lights you up, let it light you up.
Yeah. And we both believe very strongly that two whole happy people in a relationship is what makes a great relationship. And as long as you're both still working on yourselves to be whole, to be happy, that's like 2/3 of the deal, right? I'm a third, he's a third, and then you figure the relationship is its own thing. But if we're both good, that relationship is likely to also be good. And it's this other idea that, you know, you can't go into a relationship or stay in a relationship expecting that your partner is going to make you happy. You don't get happy. Your partner can't make you happy. No one can make you happy. That's something that has to come from inside you. So recognizing that and taking responsibility for your own happiness is really, really important.
Sometimes you can do something to your partner that makes them happy, though.
Yeah, that's true. We can, I mean, you can, happiness, but you could also choose to say that didn't make you happy.
I was talking about,
I know what you were talking about.
I was being dirty.
I know.
Actually, that's not dirty. I don't like that word either. I was being playful.
Playful.
Looking for.
We wanted to talk a little bit too on this call about, and I don't know where everyone is in their relationships, but about setting expectations and what Hector's referring to as these stages of love. And we didn't, like when I met Patty, and even before with all my boyfriends, I met them and I would fall madly in love and I'd get so excited. I'd have the butterflies and, all that fun, crazy love stuff. And then when it would start to wane, I'd start thinking, oh, this is clearly not the right guy because I'm not in love anymore. And I think that's a myth that many people believe, that you're going to fall in love with somebody and you're going to stay in love with them for the rest of your lives and everything's going to be rainbows and unicorns. Well, love's actually not like that in reality. And, Hollywood also proliferates that myth. The way love works is you fall in love, but it only lasts for a short time, and it depends on a lot of things, but
Well, you say
essentially it doesn't last much longer than 2 years. You can actually be in the honeymoon phase.
you're talking about the first stage.
Yeah, the first stage when you're madly in love. It can only last for about 2 years, is about as long as they have tracked it. And it's very chemical, this madly in love. In our book, we like to use the Greek words for all the stages of love and the types of love, because we like to talk about love a little bit more specifically than saying love. I love my kids, I love my lover, I love this water bottle, whatever.
So it's called Eros. That's where she was going with that one.
Yep, it's called Eros, and it's characterized by a lot of feel-good hormones and also some other hormones that make you a little neurotic. Like, it's why when you're really madly in love, you can't sleep and you might feel jealous and you might be worrying where your partner is all the time and you want to be with them all the time. In fact, it's characterized by low serotonin, which is also something that happens in people who have obsessive compulsive disorder. It's also characterized by high levels of dopamine and oxytocin. Anyway, all these feel-good hormones. That's why it's so fun to be in love. But that doesn't last. It's not made to last. It's just what attracts us to each other. And then after that Eros stage, you enter into a new phase of love, which is what we call the Great Migration. Because you go from being in love and then you start, singing that song, you lost that love.
Well, there's that side of it. A lot of us go out and we have kids in the first few years, and the whole dynamic changes, and we think,
we establish households together.
Yeah, and a lot of our efforts and everything goes into raising these kids up, and our relationship gets totally put on the back burner, and we're here to implore you not to let that happen. But that's the migration is it's that phase of your relationship where you have to kind of reinvent yourselves, and when you do that, and you do it successfully, you end up in a place that's so much better than that madly in love stuff. The madly in love and the butterflies, they're all fun for a little while, but at the end of the day, like Sam said, it makes you neurotic, and
it can be exhausting and kind of all
consuming.
Yeah, and it's hard to get stuff done sometimes when you're madly in love. So the Great Migration can suck. I mean, we didn't make it through the first time, right? Year 10.
Right.
By the way, most marriages, 50% of marriages end in the first 7 years. And so if you make it past year 7, that's your odds are better that you'll be able to weather that migration. We made it 10. But those 10, there were some really sucky years in there.
Yeah.
And I think, and a lot of it was that we didn't prioritize our relationship. I had a big job, and my job was everything. I thought making money was the most important thing.
Sam's list of priorities was job, kids,
Patty, friends.
I felt a little. By the time we split up, I definitely wasn't number 3. I mean, but for a few years before that, it was probably like that,
Well, if it's any consolation, I came in after you. My self-care and my self-love was not existent.
That's true.
Yeah, I didn't take care of myself at all, which meant I had nothing left for anybody else, which meant everybody lost. Everybody lost out. I almost lost my family and my husband, and
When we got back together,
luckily-
though, there were several things that we kind of it was like contingencies things that we learned about ourselves. So I said, you know, with or without you, these are the things I'm not going to be bringing into my next relationship, and but these are also deal breakers for me if, you know, I don't have them in my next relationship. And Sam kind of came up with some of her own, and they were all things that we could work with. So that's what enabled us to get back together. And then
what were those
the key word in that sentence was work with, because we didn't just get back together and everything was magic. That's when we started doing the work, and that's what changed everything. And it's one of my biggest tips that I can give you guys on this call, and that is never stop being curious and never stop working on your relationship. And
just being curious and wanting to work on your relationship already makes your relationship a little bit better.
Yeah.
And another statistic is that couples are waiting generally six years before they get help, even when they are. And again, I think this is happening early on in relationships. If it's 7 years when people are breaking up, that they're starting to feel this, oh, we're not madly in love anymore, and now things that he does annoy me, instead of, I don't think they're cute.
There's probably 2 or 3 years of that go on, you know, especially if you have kids, because you can compartmentalize a lot of that. And then here's another, to Sam's statistic, 6 years before people start working on their marriage. And if most couples are getting divorced after 7 years, that means the help that they do get after 6 years sucks. So,
well, or it's too late. I mean, here's the thing, it's like a wound, you know, you let a wound fester too long and it's really hard to recover from gangrene or something, you know. That's kind of a gross analogy I just came up with.
yeah. Anyway,
so we came up, there are things that we do even now to maintain our relationship that we didn't focus on during our Great Migration that I think are worth mentioning. Self-love is number one. Working on communication, and when I'm talking about communication, mostly what I'm talking about is
what? I was reading the question. Sorry.
It's listening. Isn't that ironic?
Well, I was reading the question. This is hard. It's hard to listen and read. I can't do it. I'm just turned 53, and I just barely learned that there's no such thing as multitasking.
Yeah.
There's tasking, and then there's ignoring. So I think I was doing the latter.
Yeah.
But I wasn't intentionally doing it.
You were just tasking on something else.
So we can come back to that. So communication, but this is a good question.
Okay.
It says, did you both start working on yourself? What do you do when you're in a relationship and somebody doesn't do work on themselves or doesn't want to put any effort into the relationship? And that's both of those. I mean, if it's the same person, maybe it might be time to go. But if it's one or the other, they can both be fixed. So the thing with self is so important because, and there's another comment that somebody made earlier that kind of touches on this also, and it's when I don't love myself and when I'm beating myself up and I'm not happy with myself, it's very hard for me to accept somebody else's love. In fact, to the point where you're almost resentful. Like, who are you to love me? I think I'm a piece of crap, so why would you? You know what I mean? Then you think there's something wrong with that person, or you don't deserve their love because you're not giving any to yourself, so who's somebody else to give it to you, you know? And it's important to get out of that mindset and to get yourself to a place where you can love yourself and be okay with who you are, and then you're worthy and be worthy of Sam's love. So there were several, you know, periods of our life where I didn't feel worthy, and that's detrimental because I don't know. Do you remember those?
Yeah, because you were really needy and pouty and clingy and jealous, and that for me was difficult.
Yeah. And then when it comes down to somebody not wanting to work on the relationship, one person does, the other one doesn't. It's a pretty easy question in my mind, and that is that what are your priorities, right? So if I said to Sam, I feel like we need to do some work on our relationship. I don't feel as connected with you as I used to, and I really want to get that feeling back again. Will you help me? I don't know why she would ever say no to that. So maybe it's a matter of how you ask. A lot of us do. We try to shame each other sometimes into working on it. Here's a book that you should read. You know, you should read this book about relationships. I don't need to read it because I don't need to work on it, but you do.
Yeah, and actually we've met a number of couples who kind of do some of that. Everybody here who's on this call is definitely into self-help and bettering yourselves. And again, we applaud you for being on this call, but not everybody's like that. And we meet couples where one person is really into this and wants to work on things. And I'm not just talking about relationships, but whatever. And the other partner is sort of shaming them. And again, that's not very loving or accepting. And I don't think that ever works. It's hard for us to answer this question because we don't have direct experience with it. What I will say though is when I work on myself and I grow that love for myself, and then it starts to spill out onto Patty in like a not a keeping score kind of way. Keeping score is so bad, but in a truly wanting to show as much love as I possibly can, that affects how he relates back to me. And I don't know if he wasn't receptive to that, if that would ever heal a relationship. I mean, not all relationships are going to heal, but we think more of them could if they, did the right work. But I see that when I am self-loving and that starts to spill off into Patty and I show as much love as I can, he then it's almost naturally reciprocated. So I know there are a lot of other teachers out there who believe that one person doing a lot of the work that will, that can inspire the other partner to participate.
It can. There's also another point I wanted to make about when we get into these relationships, we fall in love typically with who the person is. We don't fall in love with who I can turn them into or who I might be able to change you into. And so we just have to keep remembering that and just love people right where they are. And if they're not loving themselves, that's the first thing that they kind of need to be able to do. Everybody needs to be able to get to that point. It's to some degree. I'm rambling a teeny bit, but
that's okay.
But when it comes to I see this all the time, and I'm in a men's mastermind, blowing abundance, and sometimes at One Life where people are like, "Oh, I just really wish my wife would come to this conference," or they really need this, and maybe they don't. Maybe they're just fine right where they are, and maybe you just need to love them right where they are, and maybe that'll lift a little bit of the pressure also. And a relationship is a marathon, so you're gonna go. There's ups, there's downs, there's
the stages.
Yeah, somebody asked about, is it normal to go through a stage? Absolutely. But
yep.
What you need to change though is when you recognize that you're in an S stage, double down on your effort, because then you'll get out of it like that, I think.
Yeah. A couple things that we think are a few things that we think are kind of non-negotiable as far as our relationship goes, that as soon as we stop doing it, we end up with issues. And the first one is a weekly date night. And it doesn't mean you're going on some fancy date. It means you set aside time, even if you're just staying home, to really connect with each other. And we also think at least weekly sex. It's scientifically proven that is you don't have to have more than weekly sex, but I do think there is something about, and if you're having issues in your sex life, watch my TED Talk because that might answer some of the questions.
Here's a tip for you too, for the fans back home. If you try to schedule your weekly sex on a different night than your date night, you might get lucky twice.
So true. And I think if you're not able to, if that's not happening now, scheduling it is a really good way of doing it, because it also allows you to have something to look forward to, and then you can really savor that experience, which also, you know, creates more satisfaction in your relationship and in your sex life. So weekly dates and weekly sex, at least weekly. But we preach that anytime your partner wants to have sex, you should just say yes. Because unfortunately, when you reject your partner, it's a huge wall to intimacy, meaning not just physical intimacy, but emotional intimacy gets stifled also when you're rejecting your partner. So if there's any way you can get your head around saying yes, and there are a lot of reasons to say yes, including like a dozen health benefits that are crazy awesome. And again, those are in my TEDx talk. And if you want more information, I'm also working on another book for this year. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say, give people, give them a reason to say yes. Remember, I don't know if you remember, I used to work damn hard at getting lucky when I was dating a girl. I mean, I put in hours. But when we get married, sometimes we're like, hey, you want to get lucky? And they're like, nope. I'm like, all right, fine. You roll over and you get angry and you feel rejected. But how much effort did you really put into that?
Yeah.
Is that drop the mic moment? You pausing for that?
Yeah, that was a good one.
We're supposed to leave open a few 10 to 15 minutes for questions, and we're getting close to that. So just start firing them into the chat if you guys have them.
Yeah.
Do we have anything else that we wanted to cover? We kind of,
those are sort of I think
those
two things, if you can create those habits of having a weekly date and weekly sex, and entering into those with the thought that I'm not doing this just for my partner, I'm doing this for myself, I'm doing this for my partner, I'm doing this for the relationship, for all three of those things. And having pleasure be one of your goals when you're doing this, having your dates to have fun and enjoy time together, because that, that will bond you. That creates intimacy, just like sex. It should be a pleasure. It should be about pleasure. And when we say sex, we're not talking simply about intercourse. We're talking about anything and everything that turns you on and or gets you off. So it can be anything that's physically pleasurable.
I will say that also when you talk about date nights and when we talk about sex dates and that kind of thing, is that it's really the sole core purpose of it is to just foster that deeper connection. So going to a movie theater on your date night and not taking time to talk or really connect is it's better than nothing, but I would highly encourage you to like put the phones up and really focus on connecting. And then the same thing when you get your sexy time. I mean, it's about being in that moment and being in that moment with each other, and that connection is what really is the anchor, in my opinion, of a relationship. And it gets you to the third stage, which
we didn't even address the third stage. So you're going on a migration from eros to what the Greeks term pragma, which we call truly loving. This is where you've been in this relationship for some time. You've probably been through some difficult times together and you've survived it. And there's a different kind of love that happens there that's, we think, is even better than the eros in love. Where
it's not even a question. It's totally better.
It's totally
better. It's a
better.
deeper, more satisfying, more connective love. I mean, when you're madly in love with somebody, it's like a drug. So obviously too much of a drug is a bad thing, but pragma, it's the root word. It's a root word for pragmatic, which is a super boring word, but it's the way things are supposed to be. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean?
I don't really know what you mean. Can you tell me more?
It's just when you get to that place in your relationship where you know it's right, and you know that I don't know. It's kind of hard to put into words. I think I did a better job on our podcast the other day when we were talking about this. But it's that. Why don't you talk? Because I know you have all the science and the definitions behind it.
Well, the pragma is actually the root word for action, which is, what we've been talking about that this whole time, right? Love isn't something that you just fall into and it works. Love is something. This pragma is
taking action with
action.
a purpose, though, right?
With the purpose, yeah.
That's defined. Anyway,
it's where you are extremely committed, you're extremely loyal, you are comfortable in the relationship. I would say Patty's my best friend. He's also my lover, and I feel so lucky to be able to spend every day with him. And it's magical, and I keep thinking that, and we've been through some rough times. It's not like everything's easy. We have to work at it too.
Somebody posted in the chat window tips for keeping the friendship alive and avoiding conflicts and making up quicker over time. And I would say that you're not going to avoid conflicts. The conflicts are going to happen, but and that's fine. You recognize that they're healthy, deal with them the best that you possibly can. But we love keeping things kind of light. Don't take your relationship too seriously. Don't take your partner too seriously. And above all else, don't take yourself too seriously. But there'll be times where Sam sometimes will just come at me, and I'm like, whoa, I'm not really sure what's going on right now, honey, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't have to do with the sock I left in the middle of the floor. I'm sorry I didn't pick that up. I'll go pick it up right now, but let's talk about what's really bothering you, And so that open communication and not feeling defensive it's a way to avoid being defensive. Is the first thing that's going to escalate a conflict. So you can, I can say, avoid conflicts, but at the end of the day, she's going to say something and she's going to be wrong, and I got to tell her.
And then there's this need to be right is it still feeds some of our arguments. We feel like I want to be right, you're right, and then if we can get over that bit,
yep,
we always end up in a better place.
I have a way better chance of seeing Sam's boobs if I just tell her she's right, even when she's wrong.
I'm never wrong. So, interestingly enough, about conflict, Dr. John Gottman, he does a lot of amazing relationship research, and he found, and this is interesting, that 69% of
what percent?
It's 69. It's so weird because I think I've misquoted it a couple of times in the last even week. It's weird that I didn't remember it was 69. I think I said 60 and then I said 70. It's 69% of all arguments in a marriage will never be resolved.
68 is my favorite number. You want to know why?
I know why, but you can tell them.
She does me and I'll owe her one.
All right. So 69% of all arguments are never resolved, which means they're always going to come up, and so you can't avoid it. You can't. It's just one of these things where you just have to learn how to have the discussion more calmly, manage your own emotions so that it doesn't escalate into something crazy. Recognize when your partner is trying to make what Gottman calls a repair attempt, which is, we could be fighting. This is my favorite story about Patty and I was screaming at him about something, like huge temper tantrum. And I look over at him and he's got his shirt up and he's got his belly pushed out as far as he can get it. And he's like, "You're upsetting the baby."
I was feeling really bloated that night, so it was easy to do.
but sometimes the humor works, and I was so pissed, and I just saw that and I started laughing, and then we both were laughing, and then I think I couldn't even remember what I was mad about. That's that's a repair attempt, meaning like when you're in an argument and somebody tries to make a joke or does something playful or says sorry, like grab a hold of those things so that you can end that conflict more quickly, because they're reaching out to you. Gottman also says that your relationship's going to be great as long as you have 5 good interactions with your partner to every 1 bad one. So that means you have a fight, you got to have 5 great interactions with them. That's your date night, that's your sex, that's, being playful with each other.
You should also
there's one more stat I want to spit out, and that is there's another study. Actually, it was 2 studies back in the 70s, and I don't know why they haven't done another study for this, but I read these 2 studies that said that as long as you have sex twice for every 1 bad, interaction, negative interaction, that also indicated a happy, satisfying marriage.
Okay then.
Yeah, so make up sex and then you got to do it again.
And it's also when you're having conflict, and let's say there's some kind of an argument, it's almost never 100% about the thing being whatever the hell it is that you're arguing about. There's usually a lot of periphery involved, like
bad day at work.
Sam's feeling like she's not getting any help at all around the house, and then I'm taking her for granted. And I'm stressed out because of a bunch of things that are happening, with work. And then when those 2 things collide, we might spend, and, we don't do it as much anymore, but in the past we might have spent an hour arguing about, something
really
that somebody
silly
said that hurt our feelings at a party or something. You know what I mean? Just dumb stuff.
And I think there's also, as you learn to manage your emotions, again, it's listening to that voice, deciding if it's true. As you learn to manage your emotions, you'll notice you're just not as combative. You see something that bothers you and you choose not to let it bother you. And then there's nothing to have conflict about. So a lot of this, again, is like your own personal growth, and acceptance of yourself allows you to have acceptance of your partner. Like Patty, he's a slob. He leaves his shit everywhere.
I do not. I picked up my.
There's one of your hats. There's your sunglasses.
Those are your sunglasses.
I'm just saying his clothes are always strewn all over the house, everywhere. He takes his clothes off in the weirdest places. He doesn't like to do the dish. Like he'll let the dishes pile up for 3 days before he's like, oh, somebody should do the dishes. And that used to really bug me. And you know what now? It's just who he is. And he's not doing it maliciously. That's another thing. Like, don't take shit personally. He doesn't do that to hurt me. And I used to take it personally. Like, if he loved me, he would know that he needs to pick up his clothes. He would know he needs to do the dishes.
I like to implement the Gottman strategy that you talked about, which is I just wait for Sam to like get mad at me, and then I'm like, you just did something negative. Now you have to do 5 positive things to me. Isn't that how it goes? Is that what you said?
Yep. Thanks, Tim. Do the dishes, you prick. Actually, he's done the dishes a few times in the last couple of weeks.
That's how I get lucky now.
It's magical.
It's her love language. If I do the dishes, but the problem is I haven't quite figured it out yet. So I'll take my pants off in the living room and I'll do the dishes without pants on.
And then I'll be like, pick up your fucking pants.
Yeah, so can't win.
All right. Did we have any other questions that we missed? Hector, do you want to chime in? Are we out of time? I feel like.
I think this is great.
Anything useful?
Well, I did.
Good job.
I think I can speak for the group and say it's been very useful. Everybody's still here, and I think they're listening attentively. I know Alexandra's been putting some positive comments in there. I'll give a few minutes if anybody has any questions, if they want to unmute themselves, or if you want to throw them down in there in the chat. We'll give a few more minutes. Sam, one thing that I would love for you to do to share as quick as you can is the benefits of sex. And that was kind of the basis of your TED Talk. And you mentioned it a little bit, but I'd love for you to give kind of the 60, 90 second, teaser on that, because I think you glazed over it. And I think it's kind of eye-opening for people who don't follow your work.
Okay, so sex is the title of the talk is called "Sex: The New Wonder Drug," and the reason that Sam named it that is because of all the health benefits that are attached to it. And one of the very first ones that we ever heard of was I had gone to the doctor, and so this is actually kind of a funny story. Sam started scheduling our doctors because we never go to the doctor. So she would just schedule our annual checkup at the same time. And we go in, we have the same doctor. So we would just go in there and we do the checkup at the same time. And here I am at 46 years old. And Sam's like, aren't you supposed to like check his prostate? And he's like, oh, we don't usually start doing that until they're 50. And he's like, unless there's a family history. And she's like, oh, his dad had prostate cancer. And I was just looking there like, what the hell's the matter with you? Next thing you know, I'm bending over singing Moon River. And she's laughing in the corner. But he actually I think the next time I went, for some reason Sam couldn't go, and he's like, well, we got to start doing these annually. And I was like, Jack. And so, but he did say that one of the best and healthiest things that you can do for your prostate is to ejaculate. So whether you're doing it to yourself or somebody's doing it with you, it's a very, very, I think that it reduces your risk of prostate cancer by over 50%.
Yeah.
If you do it at least once a week.
No, you have to do it more than
3 times a week.
I think that the number, and you guys can't, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm close. It's like 23 times a month where they saw that big of a drop. To 40, I think, and it's closer to 50%, 48% or something.
It reduces the risk of heart disease.
Yeah.
It reduces stress.
Yep.
This is my favorite one. Tell them about the headaches.
Yeah. So they did these studies with people having migraines, and they found that having sex reduced people's migraines. Like the majority of the people, their migraines either went away completely or they found some relief from it, even though the number of people though that they found who were having sex or engaging in sexual activity during their migraines was low. But of those people, most of them felt much better. And
it was a weird study too, because they had to actually find people that had migraines that were willing to have sex during their migraine.
No, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah,
but that's okay.
I nailed it.
All right. Some of the other ones, it improves your sleep.
That's a fact. I just want to go to bed after.
Well, because it creates this, it releases this hormone called prolactin, and that helps you fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, and in women, we experience more REM sleep.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's a really good thing. That means even if you sacrifice a few minutes to have sex, you're going to sleep better, so it probably makes up for it.
It makes you live longer and look younger. I mean, that's enough right there. If we were to bottle all this stuff up and give you a pill, we'd be gajillionaires.
It increases intimacy, and not just physical intimacy. There are all these studies, everybody's heard of pillow talk. You have sex with somebody and suddenly you're divulging, your deepest secrets. It's true that sex does that to us. It creates an openness in us that creates emotional intimacy as well. So like when we did our experiment, Patty and I did this experiment where we just said yes to sex to each other for at least a month. And it wasn't just, and this is in my TED Talk, so I apologize if you guys have watched that already. I'm repeating myself, but it wasn't just the physical intimacy. Like we suddenly became a lot closer. We were having deeper conversations, and it was really, really magical.
So there's one question we got to answer because it's an important one, but we do have a podcast. It's called The Not So Perfect Couple, and we talk about all this stuff. We interview experts. We interview not people that aren't experts, but we don't care. We interview all kinds of people. And we just, anything that we can put out there as far as content goes that we feel that might help somebody in their relationship, then we'll stick it out there. And then we just put other random stuff out there too.
And
wanted to thank you guys for doing this. I put the link to the podcast in the chat there for Becca and anyone who wants to check it out. The book, I'll also put the link to find out about their book, which releases in a couple weeks. And so if you guys have, and that'll be in audio version as well, Sam? Is that what I heard too?
Yeah, I'm working on that now, the Audible.
So you guys can get all the info for that on the biggerlove.com/marriage-book. Any last kind of closing thoughts, or if there's anything that you'd like to talk about the book, anything while we have the last few minutes here on the call? Cool. Well, I appreciate this. I think this was fantastic. And if you guys got a little bit of the vibe between them today, I think you guys will enjoy the podcast. They are really able to bring what's so important and valuable out, and in a fun and relaxed format as well. So I'd encourage you guys to go and subscribe there as well.
Yeah, and we're excited about the book with all the so it's Bigger Love, but then it just has all this scientific research that backs up all this advice that we have been giving, which was awesome that we could find that. And Pat thinks it makes the book more boring, but I think it makes it more awesome.
So if you guys want to get access to the book now, there is an opportunity to join the advanced reader team and get an early version, and you guys can download it and start reading it ahead of time. There's a couple of things that are a couple of requirements, and there's a small little application, but there are some prizes and things like that go along with that as well. So that's in the chat there. I'll throw that down there as well. Becca said she enjoyed this. Joe said he enjoyed it as well. We want to thank you guys for hopping on and spending some time with us today. I do want to give a quick little reminder, because we have a couple of events coming up this month, and that is the One Life Roadmap workshops. And those of you guys who have been to One Life events, you guys know that actually Sam and Patty were speakers at our most recent one, and our goal this year is to take that conference and to spread that around throughout the country. And so we've got 5 different stops this year, and this month, later this month, we have Sacramento and Los Banos, February 25th and 27th. And so you guys can see quite a heavy a lineup of heavy hitters. And so if you guys are interested in getting all the details, go to onelifefullylive.org/events, and you guys can see all of the different ones. And if you guys use the promo code OneLife, you guys can save $100.
There's a town in Sacramento called The Bathroom.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
Nice.
It's actually is Los Banos to them. No, not. But we encourage you guys to come out, and like I said, One Life is the promo code. You guys can save $100. Patty, Sam, anything else before we kind of wrap up and close off the recording?
Best practices to maintain robust communication: work on your listening. There's validation. There's a really quick, fast read called I Hear You by Michael Sorensen. We also did a podcast with him where you can learn he kind of gives you the whole scoop, but it's about really good listening and validating someone's feelings, which is a lot of times that's all someone's really looking for when they tell you something. And then there's also in the book, we learned that as I was doing the research, active listening is something everybody's really excited about, but Patty doesn't have the patience for that, because active listening requires that he says something and then I repeat it back, and then he says, yeah, I just said that. So the active listening thing didn't really work for us. But I found out that Harvard did a big study and found that active listening actually wasn't the best way, and that repeat back strategy specifically wasn't great. The best listeners create an environment where the person they're speaking to always feels comfortable, that they feel like they can share things, they feel safe, they feel validated, they don't get defensive, the person is always curious and makes interesting comments that they're listening, and instead of like a sponge listener. What you really want to be is more of a trampoline listener where you're going back and forth, and that was kind of so validation and trampoline listening, that's what I would say for robust communication. Oh, sorry, there was just one more question that was there, Hector, that we didn't.
Did you see it come in? I didn't see that
Yeah.
one.
Rob Shoemaker.
Cool. If you guys maybe can answer it in a minute or two, and maybe give.
Oh, that was the one we just answered.
Oh, that was the one we just answered.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Where's the best place if they do have some questions, or they want to stay connected with you? Where is the best place to stay connected with you guys?
You can join our Facebook group if you want, which is Bigger Love Community or Not So Perfect Couple. But if you have questions, you can Facebook message me, or you can just email me at sam@biggerlove. And if it's a big question that Patty and I always kind of confer to see what we think the best answer is.
Yep.
sam@biggerlove.com
Yep.
is the email.
You can also email Patrick if you want.
Yep.
Patrick@biggerlove.com.
Yep. If it's a man question. Well, Sam's good at those too.
Thanks, honey.
I love it. Well, thank you guys for giving us your time and letting us into your world a little bit, and congrats on the book. And we have, I just looked, 50 people who have requested to join the advanced reader team. So
Whoop, whoop.
I'm excited about that. And if you guys want to join that, go to biggerlove.com/marriage-book. Or if you go to biggerlove.com, you can find it. They're on Instagram. They're on Facebook. And go download.
Can you get there?
Download and subscribe to the podcast.
Can you get there via the website, Marriage M2M?
Yeah, you can also get there if you go to marriageM2M.com. You can either use the number 2 or the TOM or M number 2M.
I don't think we have to say that. The whole reason we bought both domains was just so we could tell people Marriage M2M and they could do it however they want.
Okay.
marriageM2M.com.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being here. And next month, we have our community call on the second Wednesday of every month. So that's March 11th at the same time, 5 p.m. We will see you then.